lot of the way the crypto markets is set up is no different than traditional financial markets. It's just the same institutions coming in, trying to bilk the little guy. Most people have absolutely no idea about things like trading fees. They have no idea about whether or not the people they deal with are in any way licensed or regulated, or the assets are safe. None of this. Companies should give equity to their customers. Why not? Right? Without customers, paying customers, your company will not exist. You will have no business. Doesn't matter how much your employees love you.
Hello everybody, welcome to Mindset Simplified. This show is going to introduce you to those mindset experts and the most successful people from all over the world who will share their biggest achievements and also their experience of most challenging situations in their journey and how they actually overcame, so that you don't need to do the same mistakes again and rather focus on your growth to make way for the highest level of success in your life much faster. And bear in mind, this show has no script. Every word spoke here is directly heart to heart. And today's guest is a dynamic leader, innovator, and CEO of Asia's first digital stock exchange, Fusang. He is a regular keynote speaker on the subject of digital assets. He is also a board member of Port Cullis and Oyster Security and chairman at Raving, Malaysia. He is a fellow of Royal Society of Arts and Royal Asiatic Society. He has been putting extraordinary efforts in making Fusang's mission to enable stakeholder capitalism with various partners from all over the world. Help me to welcome Henry Chong. Hi Henry, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing really well and I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you first of all for being part of this show. And I want to ask, it has been really exciting to see your journey, right, about Fusang. I want to ask, why this, I know that I've been seeing a lot about the crypto and then so many people have been having that hesitance. How this Fusang is going to play a role in the whole digital assets?
Yeah. Look, I mean, you mentioned something in your very kind introduction about what I call stakeholder capitalism. And that really is how Fusang got started in the first place. Our vision is to enable all companies everywhere to turn their stakeholders into shareholders so that we can be aligned with the companies that serve us. And this idea of stakeholder capitalism, I think, is very fundamental. It's a real need in the world today. I think we all have this feeling of disconnect in modern society. We don't feel aligned in many cases with the countries we live in. There is so much schism and divide in our society today. We don't feel aligned with our communities, and we certainly don't feel like a lot of the biggest corporations in the world are really looking out for our interests, us as consumers, as users. And I hear this narrative again and again when people say, why don't companies look after us? Why are they just looking out for their shareholders? And to me, it's a very simple answer. Because the customers and the shareholders are two different groups of people. And let's face it, companies ultimately are run by their shareholders. And so who else are they going to primarily look out for? But if we can just take a company's stakeholders, and by stakeholders, I mean customers, employees, suppliers, and shareholders, all of the different constituent parts of the ecosystem that surrounds every company. If we can turn all of these people into shareholders, we are going to end up, just because of that, with a much greater alignment. And I don't even think that this is a touchy-feely concept. I don't think companies should do this for any other reasons. They should do this for purely pragmatic reasons. We take it as a given in startup culture that companies should give equity to their employees because that's a great way to align incentives with your employees. That's a great way to make sure that everybody is rowing in the same boat, as I call it, that we really are committed to the vision of this company and driving things forward. And I think that companies not only should give equity to their employees, companies should give equity to their customers. Why not? Right? Without customers, paying customers, your company will not exist. You will have no business. Doesn't matter how much your employees love you, your customers don't like you and don't pay you money for your services, you're dead. Game over. And so I think companies need to start thinking of themselves as communities, as ecosystems of all of these different stakeholder groups. And if they can just find a way to turn all of these stakeholders into shareholders, everyone is going to be much better off. And to do that, Fusang, we've built, as you mentioned, Asia's first digital stock exchange. And very specifically, our mission in doing that is to allow a global investor base to get access to companies and investments that were previously reserved for only large institutions. And I don't think a lot of people realize it, but the truth is financial markets today are rigged against the individual. They are really set up for big institutions with lots of capital who get unfair access to markets. And retail investors end up paying high fees. They have very little transparency in terms of how the market works. And that's really what we were set up to try and solve for. Where we want to allow individuals to come to our platform, get treated the same as any institution will get treated. It's a level playing field. They have full transparency in terms of how the market works, and they pay the same low fees that an institution will pay. But we do all of this, as I said, so that we can enable that idea that I've had all along of stakeholder capitalism. And very briefly, the vehicle through which we want to do this are what I call digital securities. You mentioned cryptocurrencies. There's a huge amount of interest right now in Bitcoin. Right. Last night, Elon Musk and Tesla went and bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. And everyone I talk to is really excited about that. And that's great. And I think Bitcoin is a fascinating idea. But what we Fusang are most interested in is the idea of using the same underlying blockchain technology that powers something like Bitcoin, but using it to represent real world asset securities like shares, bonds, funds, real estate, etc. Because to me, that's real value, real tangible assets. But again, today, if I want to buy into a lot of companies, assets, bonds as an individual investor, I either don't have access or I get gouged with massive, massive fees. And we're just trying to see if we can use new technology to help level the playing field and give people that access that I think they deserve.
Wow, this is absolutely massive vision to go forward, right? And I mean, I can see that mindset that you want to give that level playing field. But I want to ask, right? Does the corporates or probably these, the whatever you call as brokers or these financial agencies will be happy to bring in such a transparency because they will be losing a lot of commission in between, right?
Not everybody to begin with, right? But I think that this is an inevitable movement. This is not happening just in finance. This ability of technology to disintermediate an existing value chain, allowing buyers and sellers to meet directly, this is an old story. Look at e-commerce. Once upon a time, if I was a clothing a manufacturer, right? Or let's say I was a designer and I made clothes. You can tell I have no idea how the fashion industry works. But let's say I was a designer and I wanted to manufacture clothes. I need to go find myself a factory. I need to manufacture them. I need to then go and talk to distribution agents. I need to go talk to department stores and say, please put my clothes in the front of your store. And if the department stores like Harrods or Neiman Marcus decided to carry them, you were made, right? You had prime positioning. But then you needed to figure out warehousing and shipping and fulfillment and all the rest of it. And then Amazon came along and said, actually, we can allow very, very small enterprises to sell to a global audience. I don't need to worry about warehousing and shipping. I don't need to worry about talking to department stores anymore. Department stores are dying. If I have an idea, if I have something that I want to sell, all I need to do is find a loyal group of customers, of stakeholders out there somewhere in the world for whom that idea resonates. I don't need a lot. I don't even need them to be in the same country as me. I just need them to be out there somewhere. If I can find 1,000 true fans, right, as Kevin Kelly says, who wants whatever it is that I'm making, I can sell to them without ever having to meet them. Right? All companies today have to think globally and can think globally, right? I no longer have to say, hey, I'm a Hong Kong clothing manufacturer, therefore my market is Hong Kong. It's like, no, I sell to everyone everywhere. Not only is this true in terms of e-commerce, the selling, this is true in terms of how we interact with companies. Gone are the days when companies would put out ads in glossy magazines and it was a very one-way, this is my story and that's it, right? If I'm a hotel chain, I used to run an ad in a magazine, and that was my only interface with customers. Today, everything is done via social and digital media, just like we're doing today. But more importantly, you talk to your customers on social media, they can talk back, right? They don't like what you do, they will tell you, they will tell each other. And look, when you, maybe not so much now during COVID, but back in the day when we used to actually go travel and live in hotels, how would you pick which hotel you would stay in? You wouldn't just go to the hotel website because you assume that, of course, what the hotel says on their website and the pictures you see look great. You will type in XYZ hotel review, right? And you see what other people say about it. You'll go on Instagram and you'll see what the individuals who actually stay there, what they really think, not just what the company is saying. So this is the same story we've seen everywhere in the world, where, like it or not, companies have to interact directly with their customers and stakeholders, and they interact back, as I say. But strangely, capital markets somehow hasn't quite caught up yet. You can be the most digital company. You could be I don't know, saying like a cupcake manufacturer. It's a bad example, but you could be a cupcake manufacturer set up in Hong Kong using Amazon to sell your cupcakes all over the world, communicating to your loyal fans all over the world on social media. But if you want to raise money to expand your business, you need to go talk to a local bank and ask for a loan. It's very strange that everything in the world is so digitized and so disintermediated except financial markets, which are still what I call a B2B2C environment. It's no different than back in the day when if you wanted to sell something, you had to go talk to a department store. And if they liked you and they wanted to put you in the front of the store, you made it. It's the same thing in today's capital market environment. If an investment bank likes you and puts you in the front of the store, you win. If not, you have no access to capital. And I think that is inevitably going to change.
I'm seeing it. I'm seeing a real, the kind of growth, the way that you are really look, because you are actually solving majority of the people's problem, right? And I just want to ask, right, for the next generation, what should they actually think? Like, you are looking to one problem that is there, and you're finding out, okay, this could be a solution for this problem. Let me work on it and create a much bigger solution which is accessible to many. And with the current generation, I'm seeing most of the people are, using social media is only to kind of scroll. So what kind of suggestion you have for this next generation coming in terms of how they should evolve or how they should use the social media in terms of their journey?
Yes. Look, like it or not, and I just talked about digital media, I just realized my camera is defocusing. But look, like it or not, again, gone are the days when we can hide behind, in my opinion, facades. Right? So the flip side of social media, it's no different than if you're a company or an individual, you need to be out there, you need to talk to people, to your stakeholders. And all of us as individuals, we have stakeholders just like a company does, right? We have our own networks, and your network is your value, right? These are the people for whom you go through life. These are the people you do business with. And to me, you need to be able to communicate clearly, transparently, and honestly who you are, what you think, right? How you act. It is getting harder and harder to hide that. People can feel it. Even on social media, there's so many brands, let's call them hotel chains, who think of social media just like traditional media, right? The social media posts look exactly the same as what you would see in a magazine. And I guarantee that everyone's eyes just glaze over, right? They look at it and they say, whatever, right? It's just fancy advertising. But every now and then, someone comes along and communicates in a way that is much more raw, much more transparent. And I think that resonates with people. And I would encourage individuals to do the same thing. Like, who are you? Right? What do you stand for? What is your personal brand, if you will? And to me, brand is just identity. And, people, again, I think in today's world, we are just so inundated with polarity in a negative sense, right? The idea of a disconnect, and people are craving for that connection with individuals, with companies, with brands for whom they have resonance. And not everyone has to resonate with everything, that's okay. But it's very important, I think, that you understand how to clearly communicate to your stakeholders, right? The people for whom whoever you are individually really resonates.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get it. present your authentic self, and that's the way that future is actually holding for all of us. And when you see, right, when we are talking about the world has become very, very small now, and probably the moment you present yourself, you will get connected to so many like-minded stakeholders. It could be, I mean, they might add in any capacity for that matter. But when it comes to doing business, really doing business needs a lot more effort. So, I mean, what kind of, specifically I'm talking in terms of digital assets, right? How do these existing businesses will get, I mean, or they need to get prepared to actually, meet up to this digitization that's happening right now?
To me, people need to think of this exactly the same way as they should be thinking, as I said, about e-commerce and about social media, right? We need to start with understanding what is the product, right? Why should people care about me, the company? If you run a good company, you can already clearly communicate why they should care about the goods that you're selling. But selling yourself as a company, as a business, is a separate product. You need to be able to very clearly communicate why people should be interested and who should be interested. Again, independence. People come to me all the time asking about legal structuring. How do I get this done? How do I actually create a digital security, the actual technology of it? And I think that all of that is fine, but that's stage 2. First things first, decide what it is that you want to actually achieve. What's your outcome? No different than if you want to sell a product. There are so many ways to do logistics and fulfillment and shipping today, including people like Amazon. Hopefully, we, Fusang, as an entity, can help you do, just like Fusang can help you do that fulfillment, help you solve some of these problems. But we can't help you decide what to sell. We can't help you decide who you are as a company. What is your brand? What is your identity? We can't help you communicate to your stakeholders why they should be interested in investing into you as a business. And it is amazing to me how many people just don't even think about these things. They come, they say, I want to raise money. Like, that's great. I know you want to raise money. Why should why should one of your customers invest in you, right? If you can't even get the customers who like you enough to spend money on your product, you can't get them to invest into you as a business, that's something you need to think about.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is really critical. Now, business has to get as authentic as possible so that actually they should find their soul to actually see what are they going to offer to the world, right?
Exactly. And honestly, when we talk about stakeholder capitalism, as I said, to me, this is not a touchy-feely idea. It's not just I think this will make the world a better place idea. This is just a very pragmatic concept, right? Me, Fusang, as a company, I want to make sure that my shareholders like me and understand what I do and resonate with my brand. Because if they do, they are much more likely to want to remain my shareholders for the long term. And we're seeing this phenomenon play out in traditional capital markets. You look at companies like Tesla, and whatever you think about the stock and the valuation, you cannot deny the fact that a lot of Tesla's growth, both on the product side, in terms of people buying their cars, and in terms of their shareholders for their stock, both of that has been driven by what Tony Robbins, for example, would call raving fans. People who love the company, who love what Elon Musk says and does and all of it, and will remain loyal shareholders for the long term. That's why the stock has gone up so much, because everyone just wants to buy and hold it, right? And again, I think people need to start from that to say, who are my raving fans, right? If I'm doing a good job with my product, I already know who are my raving fans for my product. How can I also incentivize them to become my shareholders? Especially because I think companies need to start thinking about what can I do for them that's not just financial. It's not just own a share and maybe we'll all make money together. It's what does it mean to be a shareholder of my company? A lot of people here in Hong Kong love owning a small stake in a restaurant, just for fun. Not because of, quite frankly, because it's good business, but just because it's a nice feeling to say I own 5% of the restaurant. It's my restaurant. And I think all businesses need to be thinking along the same lines. How do you create that feeling of community, of, I'm an owner, I'm in this together, and I really want to do whatever I can to make this business succeed. We, Fusang, for example, we've digitized all of our own shares. We try to eat our own cooking, right? We deal in digital securities. We ourselves are a digital security. 100% of our shares have become digitized. And we say, look, our pitch effectively to potential shareholders is very simple. If what we say resonates, if everything I'm saying right now makes sense, if you like the concept, not just of digital securities, not just of that sort of level playing field and giving access to a global investor place, but you actually like this idea of stakeholder capitalism, well, you can buy our shares, right? You yourself can buy into digital security that represents interest in us, a platform for digital securities. That kind of message, I think, just makes sense to a lot of people, right? Versus companies that say, yes, I'm really looking out for you, my individual consumer, but I'm owned by a whole bunch of faceless hedge funds.
Yeah, I
That's
love
exactly
this.
where you get the disconnect.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing a lot of transparency through this blockchain and the digitization happening. But I heard you actually, and I also saw recently, right? The love for Tony Robbins. You love, I
Yes.
love, and then I've seen your whole team seem to have joined that, right? What is your take on the next generation look at personality development? Is that something they should do it at much younger age? Is that
I'm
something
literally holding
that's
a water bottle from him called the
Oh yeah,
you can see
flow.
saying
Yeah,
focus
I
goes,
can
energy
see.
flows, which I always carry everywhere. Look, I was talking to one of our partners, this other company that we work with, after we'd done Tony Robbins, and I was talking about how I wanted to bring the entire company through this as an experience, and he was just so surprised. And he's like, "Oh, like very few companies do this." I'm like, "Why?" Right? And then nothing to do with Tony Robbins, but just like, why do most companies not really care about the development of their employees? It's like, oh, because they just want them to work and produce and make money. And again, to me, it's just just doesn't make sense. Again, nothing touchy-feely. It's just pure economic commercial sense. It's like, hey, I want my employees to be the best version of themselves so that they can come and crush it at our company, right? So of course I want to invest into them. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. When I talk about stakeholder capitalism, this is a whole totality, right? It's not just my customers. I want to look after my employees. I want to look after my suppliers. I want to look after every partner that we interact with, because this is the ecosystem that supports us. And if I can find ways to not only add value to this ecosystem, but make sure that their incentives are aligned with us, I sleep easy at night. And that's why almost every employee at Fusang owns shares. That's why even some of our service providers own shares. Right? I try my hardest to pay them in shares, not just because as a startup that helps you save cash, but because it makes me sleep so much easier at night. I don't have to worry about, is it an us versus them conversation? Are they really over delivering for us, or are they just doing the bare minimum to satisfy the contract? If a significant portion of that value is tied up in our shares, they have a huge incentive to work with us. And it is amazing how this works. I can't tell you, we have so many employees here at Fusang who their thinking is just so different when they work at a different company, where you can tell that they genuinely care about the company, because hey, it's their company too, at least in part. Our suppliers likewise, they can just see, they just go above and beyond, because why not? It's their company too. And again, I think that if more companies just start thinking along those dimensions to say, look, a company, companies are not things, they're not real. Right? You can't point to a company. A company is just a concept. A company is a collection of stakeholders. If tomorrow none of the employees at Fusang show up, we don't have a business, right? Tomorrow none of our customers show up, we don't have a business. So all we are is a whole group of stakeholders of different categories who've agreed to come together, and effectively that creates what we have today, Fusang. Every company in today's world is like that, right? And even companies that are manufacturing companies that have, let's say, machines, again, right? If your suppliers don't show up, if your employees don't show up, your customers don't show up, it's game over, right? Don't tell me that your company has any value. So you're nothing more than an ecosystem of stakeholders. Again, if you can turn those stakeholders into shareholders, I think you can start to do some really exciting things.
Wow. You're driving a really very important point here, Henry. Actually, this is something not just about the Fusang as a thing. I'm seeing in general, be it as an operational of Fusang, as well as philosophy, as well as the business philosophy, right? Everything really seems to be in sync, right? Shareholders are the stakeholders, or stakeholders are the shareholders. This is something I think all the businesses should kind of try it, at least at a smaller level, to see how it will impact, because the moment you really make it, this sounds like I would rather say as a concept more than a reality, but you have implemented it completely. So this is something really brilliant. I think people should really take this and then implement it and then see, because obviously if everybody feels this is my company, the performance is going to be different.
Exactly. And it's amazing how so many business owners don't think like that. They're like, oh, I don't want to give out shares. They're my shares. I'm like, no. I'm always thinking about how can I force shares on other people. Obviously, I'll give them away for free, but how can I give people shares? How can I, convince them basically to join this ecosystem, to join our mission? And to me, once people have alignments, it's amazing how things just move forward. And when people don't have alignment, it's amazing how they don't. In our industry, financial markets, people ask me all the time, why don't banks innovate? It's not because they don't have smart people. It's not because they don't see the disruption coming and don't realize that they have to innovate. It's not like they don't have the financial resources or the technological capabilities. It's because there isn't that alignment, right? There's so many people who work at banks, again, great people, but they say, hey, is this my problem? Nope, I'm just here to show up and get my paycheck, right? Do I really care about the bank as a whole? Nope. Even within banks, you have so many different desks, right? And hey, if it doesn't impact my small little desk, I don't care. It's not my problem. Someone else's problem. And of course, the issue then becomes no one is driving it. A lot of the big tech companies today, the reason why they've been able to become such dominant companies is partly because they still have strong founders who actually continue to run those companies. And so when, I guess Jeff Bezos is just retired, but still, when he wakes up in the morning and says, this is where I think we should move, things can really move fast. Whereas for a lot of big banks, no one really owns the bank. Again, it's a whole bunch of public market shareholders, but people in the bank are not the shareholders. So they're like, what do I care? What do I care if my bank goes bankrupt in 10 years? It's not really my problem. And I think that's just sad, as I said, because with just a little bit of alignment, I've seen how you can just unleash massive potential in a company.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Now, actually coming to one of the very important point is about now, with Elon Musk doing this as well, like where is this crypto going according to you? Crypto or currencies similar to all the tokens, right? Where do you think all these things are heading according to your projection?
If you asked me even 6 months ago how long it would take for digital assets to become mainstream, I would have said, I don't know, maybe 1 year, maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years, inevitable, but who knows how long it'll take. Today, I'm convinced that by the end of 2021, digital assets and crypto will be mainstream enough. It's not like everybody's going to own Bitcoin. It's not like every bank is going to be dealing in digital securities, but everyone will have heard of it. And I guarantee that every financial institution, if they don't have a strategy for digital assets, they better get one really, really fast. And I guess at least for Fusang, what we are laser focused though on is saying the biggest issue in the crypto markets today, as you mentioned earlier, is trust and transparency. A lot of the way the crypto markets is set up is no different than traditional financial markets. It's just the same institutions coming in, trying to bilk the little guy. Most people have absolutely no idea about things like trading fees. They have no idea about whether or not the people they deal with are in any way licensed or regulated, or if the assets are safe, none of it. And we've just tried to do some very simple things to say, you know what, in a very messy room, we think there's room for someone to go the opposite direction, to be fully licensed, regulated, and say, look, we can be fully transparent, right? We think that we really can run this in a proper way, including believing that our customers are smarter than most people think. A lot of people, certainly in these last few weeks, have been talking to me about Robinhood, right? A classic example. And I think that is the perfect prototypical example to talk about things like trading fees. 6 months ago, people used to say, hey, Fusang charges trading fees. Robinhood is free. Why don't I just trade with Robinhood? And I say, hey, dude, nothing in life is free, right? If something is free, you should dig deep and figure out where they're making the money. And our research has actually shown that brokers like Robinhood, the free brokers, actually have the single highest cost of execution of trading. It's just hidden. You just don't see it. And again, I think a lot of people don't give individual investors enough credit. They say they won't understand, right? And I don't agree. I think if you really present things to people, people understand, or at least more specifically, the people for whom that message will resonate are the people we want to do business with. As I said, we don't have to do business with the whole world, right? But there'll be enough people who say, yes, I appreciate that Fusang is being upfront, being transparent. I like that. And I want to come, I want to talk to them, and I want to be part of their community. And that's actually why we have literally just set up our own effectively private social network. We said, you know what? Again and again, I was getting people coming to me to say that there's just no space for people to talk about things like digital assets and cryptocurrencies in an environment that wasn't spammy, that wasn't just people trying to sell things to me, where you could actually interact and ask questions and go through all of this with each other and learn in a way that felt genuine. And, you know, we looked at all these different social media platforms, but quite frankly, there's just so much noise today. It's all advertising, right? And we didn't want to be running a group where people were inundated with all kinds of ads at the same time. And so we've gone ahead and created our own community that's actually free and public for people to join. It's by the time people listen to this, it'll be live actually. You can just go to community.fusang.co and you'll be able to sign up free. Like I said, we created this space quite separate of our business, right? Our stock exchange, our custody platform, where we charge fees, we make money. We created this quite separately just because I really believe that not only do we want to draw stakeholders to be aligned with Fusang, we need to allow the stakeholders around Fusang to engage with each other, right? Again, ultimately, businesses are communities, and communities have value not just with us as a central node talking with all of our different parties, but allowing those parties to interact with each other. I think that's when things get really, really exciting. When our customers can talk to each other and help each other, can learn with each other. Where again, you know, we're putting out all kinds of courses and information and masterclasses about everything to do with crypto and digital assets, but that's still us pushing content to people. I think it is just as important, if not more important, that people can help each other along the journey and learn from each other.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand. I mean, what I want to tell the audience, first of all, is if you're not into the digital currency, it's the time to get right now, because that's where we are heading as a whole. But if you're really looking for transparency, I mean, first thing to look is Fusang. And I think you are actually trading all across, right? I saw really, you know, your partnership with major banks across. So
Absolutely.
It's a global platform, isn't it? Fusang?
Absolutely. But look, I tell people, don't take our word for it. Again, you can come to a company website and we'll say all kinds of nice things. And the whole reason why we created this community is, again, people need to talk to each other, right? If we do our job well and we genuinely believe that we can set up this amazing platform, transparency, fees, all of it, we should be very happy to allow people to talk among themselves. Right? Just like if you go to a business and they say, oh, I don't want you talking to any of my clients as referrals, that's a bad sign, right? Say no, right? We want to set up this community so we can be fully transparent. So again, right, we don't take our word for it. Sign up for the community, go see what we say, see what other people say, interact with each other, learn from each other, and give back to the community. Teach us, right? I mean, every individual, I believe, has something unique to say. Maybe you're not an expert in Bitcoin, but maybe you have other things to offer to the community. And we really want people to come and bring that into the community. And the whole point of community is that as it grows, as people add value back into the community, that just snowballs and spirals. And that's what we're hoping to build. So again, just go Google Fusang Community or Fusang.community. It's the URL and just log in for free.
I'll make sure that
including you, Rajesh, I'm looking out for you. Looking out for you to come and
I am going to be there for sure.
Doesn't have to be anything to do with digital assets or crypto. You know, as I said, I think the whole point of investing ultimately shouldn't just be about trading tactics, right? Ultimately, we need to get back to the root of what it means, which is, do I want to be a part owner of this company or entity or product? Right? Just like being a consumer today shouldn't just be about clicking a button and making a transaction. It should be, do I want to participate in this company as a stakeholder? And to me, this is just closing the loop.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, and I'm more than inspired, and I'm going to be part of the community. And also, for you, all of you audience, I'm going to put the link in the description itself. You don't need to go on Google. I'm also going to keep all the links of Fusang so that you can go ahead and find out all by yourself. I mean, absolutely, there's no whatsoever pressure for you, but whatever research Fusang has been doing over the years, they are going to present to you. All their community is transparent to you. So what I would rather want you to do is go ahead and click these links and find out yourself where the markets are heading and where you want to, get into the journey of future financial markets. And I would say, Henry, thank you so much for your time, and then also giving all the experience of the digital assets all over the world, right? So thank you so much once again for being part of the show. And I want to say that only one thing, that I wish you all the best to get into that, especially because you're doing really so transparent, to get into the world market and make sure that you serve more people, because people are in need of it.
Yeah, and look, I just one last pitch for our community. I mean, this has been awesome, Rajesh, but it's not live, right? We can't have questions from people. And if you're out there and something I say resonates with you, or it doesn't, right? Come join the community, and you can direct message me in the community. That's really me, right? You can message me like you message everyone else. I'd love to hear ideas, thoughts, right? Tell me what you think. Tell me about, never mind Fusang as a company. Tell me about your experiences with trying to promote stakeholder capitalism. What could we do? What ideas do you have? To me, again, that is the power of a community, of a stakeholder base.
Yeah, it cannot go any better. Now that the access is directly given to Henry just because of his passion to make this change. When it really becomes a change as an entrepreneur, I know what kind of impact it can go in the performance of the organization, at the same time, happiness of the employees. So this is really an amazing effort, Henry, and I'm going to be also part of the community, and I'm sure people will realize the transparency and the kind of efforts that you're keeping. And I wish you all the best. And again, thank you so much for being part of the show. This is a really amazing conversation. And if you guys are not yet subscribed, make sure to subscribe and like and share with everybody who can actually take this information and make an impact in their lives. Otherwise, I see you with another amazing person in the next episode. Till then, we say bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.